Boss discovers single mom nursing her baby at work. His life-changing response is incredible. Emily pulled her cardigan tightly around her as she stepped into the cramped break room, her heart racing. The sudden clicks of keyboards and the hum of the office outside faded away. This was her sanctuary. She gently opened her breast pump bag, only to be interrupted by a fleeting pang of guilt. How would she juggle being both a diligent employee and a devoted mother? The stress weighed heavily on her shoulders, especially with the merger looming and deadlines tick-tocking like a relentless clock. With each drop of milk collected, she found both love and vulnerability swirling within her, a tumultuous mix that made her heart swell. At 30, the world of corporate America felt both exhilarating and suffocating, as she fought to keep her head above water in this competitive landscape. Each quiet moment spent nursing her baby was a bittersweet reminder of the chaotic whirlwind outside the door, where expectations and demands were high, and it often felt impossible to meet them. Before she knew it, Emily's heart jumped when the door swung open, and in walked Jack, her boss. The man was notoriously tough as nails, laser-focused on profits and efficiency. Yet, in that moment, his expression morphed from shock to something entirely different. He froze, caught off guard by seeing Emily. Mothers don't belong in the corporate machine, after all. As if the world fell silent, he absorbed the scene, a devoted mother tenderly cradling her newborn. Impulsively, he stepped in closer, drawn to the unexpected grace of the moment. The walls of corporate expectations began cracking around him, revealing a world he'd never truly acknowledged. Memories of his own upbringing flashed before him, the sacrifices his mother made, juggling multiple jobs and carrying the weight of familial expectations on her back. He felt a surge of empathy, the kind that digs deep into one's own reality. Before he could think, he breathed out the words that had been stirring within him. "You're doing this alone?" The sincerity washed over her, causing her eyes to well with tears. In that charged moment, Jack felt the urgency building within him to reassess everything he understood about work-life balance, his own childhood echoing in the stillness. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The room buzzed with potential. The silence fell like thick fog. What began as a moment of clarity for Jack swiftly transformed into a rallying cry. "We need to change things here," he declared, challenging the very fabric of the company's culture that priced productivity over people. As he opened the floodgates for tough conversations about flexible hours and family-friendly policies, Emily clutched her baby, her pulse racing. The office hummed with a tension that pulsated through every heart and mind present. Would this bold proclamation alter the corporate landscape? As voices clashed with urgency ping-ponging around the room, Emily knew her fight was only just beginning. But could a single mom's quiet struggle influence one of corporate America's hardest hearts? As Jack prepared to share the impact of his proposal, the collective breath of the office tightened with anticipation. A turning point was at hand, and Emily felt the winds of change swirling, leaving her to wonder, what would become of this fragile moment, teetering on the edge of transformation. Jack's voice was steady as he continued, momentum building behind him. "We're living in a time where we can't afford to prioritize profits over people. I've seen too many talented individuals break under stress. It's time we put families first." Emily's heart raced. She had never heard him speak so passionately about anything. The weight of the corporate world felt lighter in that instant, as though Jack was carving a new path, one she desperately hoped would be more inclusive. She glanced around, noticing nods of agreement from some colleagues. Others, however, exchanged skeptical glances, unsure of Jack's newfound perspective. "Change is hard," he continued, a fire igniting in his eyes. "But we owe it to ourselves, to our families, to create an environment where everyone can thrive." A voice broke through the murmurs. But how do you propose we actually implement these changes? It was Madeline, a top executive known for her no-nonsense approach. Jack turned to face her, his brow furrowed but eyes resolute. We start with serious discussions about flexible working hours. We introduce care initiatives to support parents. And we establish a space for lactation so that Emily and others like her feel supported, not questioned. The room fell silent again, the air thick with a mixture of hope and doubt. Emily could sense the doubt creeping in, but her heart beat louder as the weight of Jack's words sank in. It was as if a door had opened, welcoming both possibilities and scrutiny. Jack caught Emily's gaze, a silent promise passing between them. They both knew the road ahead would be complicated. Restructuring company policies was never easy, especially for someone as uncompromising as Jack. But at that moment, he seemed transformed, an advocate for something larger than himself. Madeline crossed her arms, unimpressed. And what about the financial implications? This could cost us. Change is always expensive at first, Jack shot back, his voice firm. But investing in our people will lead to greater long-term returns. Happy employees are loyal employees. We can't keep losing talent because of outdated ways. The tension hung heavy in the air, a battleground of beliefs. Emily felt as if she were sitting on a precipice, her emotions swirling like leaves caught in a gust of wind. Would the office rally behind this vision? Would they allow Jack to lead them, or would they resist out of fear for the status quo? Just then, the baby in her arms stirred, a soft cooing sound cutting through the animosity. Emily instinctively comforted her, a subtle reminder of what they were fighting for. Every mother in the room could relate, and she felt a surge of courage welling within her. I think we should give it a chance, she said, surprising herself. The room turned, all eyes on her. If we're ever going to change this place, we need to be part of the conversation. I'm scared, but I know we can create something better for our families. As whispers erupted around her, she could see Jack's gaze soften, gratitude radiating from him. Maybe, just maybe, the seeds of change were beginning to sprout. But would everyone be willing to nurture these seeds, or were they destined to wither in the harsh climate of old-school corporate culture? Emily felt the anxiety bubble within her. The stakes were high. The future of not just her career but that of countless others depended on this moment. As the discussions swirled, one question hung heavily in the air: could this small step for one mother lead to a leap for an entire company? And as the tension began to shift, Emily was left to wonder what the next chapter of her life and the lives of her colleagues would hold. The atmosphere in the room shifted significantly after Emily's bold statement. She felt the weight of eyes on her, a mix of surprise and admiration buzzing through the crowd. Jack looked at her with a glimmer of pride, something else solidifying between them, a shared mission. Emily's right, he said, stepping back into his role as leader. We need everyone's buy-in to move forward. Let us hear from you all. What do you think? The murmur grew into a cacophony of voices. Some colleagues chimed in with agreements, while others voiced concerns. It was noisy, chaotic, but it felt alive, hungry for change. Emily felt a surge of hope as she listened to her coworkers. They had ideas, personal stories, and struggles that piled on top of one another, revealing a tapestry of lived experiences that made the room resonate. I've been working nights to manage both kids and work, said Greg, a software engineer with tired eyes. Flexible hours? That could change everything for me. I can relate, another woman interjected, her voice softer but steady. I used to dread bringing my baby to daycare. If we had more support, more understanding. Slowly, the walls of skepticism began to crumble. Emily's heart swelled. They were finding their voices, just like Jack had encouraged. The vision of a better workplace felt tangible now. Faces softened, and a sense of community began to fill the air. Okay, Madeline broke in, raising a hand to silence the room. Let us not get ahead of ourselves. You're all talking about a significant shift. Are we ready to see this through? Jack nodded. We need to figure out the logistics, the financial aspects, but we can't ignore the heart of the matter: our people. They come first. Emily felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She watched as Jack stood firm, steadying the ship while steering it toward uncharted waters. There was a raw honesty in his voice that captivated the room. Yet, as the discussion continued, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that not everyone was on board. Madeline's skepticism loomed large, like a gray cloud ready to rain on their parade. As more ideas flowed, Emily caught sight of her, arms crossed tight across her chest, eyebrows shifting from doubt to contemplation. "Do we even have a budget for these changes?" Madeline challenged again, her tone sharpened. The words seemed to hang over the room like a storm. Jack took a breath, accepting the challenge. "We won't know until we try. This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet, it's about work-life balance. A content workforce will translate into better performance of that, I'm certain." "Sure, Jack," Madeline shot back, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "And I'm sure that won't come with a hefty price tag." Emily clenched her fists, sensing the stakes rise again. Madeline represented the old guard: the caution, the fear of taking risks for the sake of change. Jack was fighting an uphill battle, and she yearned to help him, but she felt increasingly vulnerable with each pushback. As the discussion wore late into the day, ideas began morphing into plans. A committee was proposed to gather more insights, to draft a proposal to present to the higher-ups. Emily's excitement turned to anxiety, her pulse quickening. What if the proposal faltered? What if her baby's presence in the office became a source of tension rather than the catalyst for change? Just as the meeting began winding down, her phone buzzed quietly in her pocket. A message from her husband lit up the screen, a reminder of the balance she was trying to shift at home too. As the meeting finally adjourned, the lingering sense of hope battled with fear in Emily's chest. Was she ready to step forward, not just for herself but for all the families at her company? Would they seize this moment? And in that moment of uncertainty, she couldn't help but wonder, what would it take to push those first seeds of change from potential into reality? As Emily stepped out of the conference room, the whirlwind of emotions left her feeling disoriented, like stepping off a roller coaster. The conversation still buzzed in her mind: Greg's plea for flexible hours, the other woman's shared experience, Jack's calming encouragement, but Madeline's harsh words lingered like a bitter taste. Her phone buzzed again, snapping her back to reality. It was a text from her husband. He was stuck at work, the babysitter couldn't stay late. Her heart sank. Not again, she whispered to herself. The struggles of being a working mom often felt like a constant battle, and every time the pieces didn't fit, it seemed to echo louder in her mind. Just as she was about to respond, Jack caught up to her. His eyes were warm, a comfort against her swirling doubts. "Hey, you did great back there," he said, offering a reassuring smile. "Thanks, but I don't know. What if it doesn't work out? What if they dismiss our proposal?" The tightness in her chest seemed to grow heavier, the weight of expectations threatening to drag her down. Jack placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "We won't let that happen. We need to show them the value in this. You're not alone in this fight, Em." She appreciated his support. A flicker of hope ignited within her, but the fear still clung to her. What if Madeline digs her heels in deep? She won't make this easy. She represents a perspective that's important, but doesn't see the bigger picture yet. We'll bring her in, get her thinking differently. Everyone's got to understand that the heart of a company isn't just its bottom line, it's the people who make it run. They walked together toward the exit. With every step, Emily's thoughts drifted back to the tentative plans of the committee. "I just keep thinking about the families depending on us. I've seen how hard stress can wear someone down." "Hey, I get it," Jack said, his expression earnest. "We're working to create a culture where people can thrive, not just survive. It's a journey, but one worth taking. You'll see." Emily appreciated the optimism, yet doubts crept back in. "I can't help but worry about my own situation at home. When do I get to be a mom if I'm out here fighting for change? Before Jack could respond, she saw Greg approaching, his brow furrowed. Emily, can we talk? I just had an idea. What's up? She asked, anxious but curious. I've been thinking about a concept for the proposal. What if we create a support system or buddy program? Pair new parents with those who've been through it, like a mentorship thing? Just someone to guide them, offer advice, maybe even help swap hours on tough days. It was a brilliant idea, one that could resonate with even the skeptics. Emily felt a spark of excitement mix with her fear. That's amazing. It could really showcase how being a parent doesn't just impact one person but the entire team. Right? Greg's relief was palpable. It's not just about changing hours or policies. It's about shaping a whole culture of support. This could shift the way we see teamwork. In that moment, Emily realized they were onto something. This wasn't just about her or her situation, it was about a collective need for connection and support. The path before her started to feel clearer, despite the hurdles they were sure to encounter, but as they continued to brainstorm, Emily felt the inevitable question loom. What if they encountered a wall that couldn't be breached? What if, despite all their efforts, the proposal fell flat at the top levels? Trying to shake the doubt, she turned to Jack, who was watching with a knowing smile, as if he could see the struggle within her. We just have to keep pushing. This isn't just a proposal, it's a lifeline for everyone here. Deep down, Emily knew he was right. But would their determination be enough to convince those in power? Just then, her phone buzzed again. Another message. This time from Madeline. Her stomach knotted. What could it be this time? Are you ready for this? Jack asked, sensing her tension. With one last inhale, she braced herself. I'm not sure, but I know we have to try. The uncertainty clung to her, but Emily felt the adrenaline of change begin to crackle in the air around them. As she pressed open the message, she felt the weight of her choices bearing down on her more than ever before. What awaited her next might just change everything. Emily's fingers trembled slightly as she opened the message from Madeline. The loading icon spun, each second feeling like an eternity. Finally, the text appeared, stark against the bright screen. We need to talk about your proposal. Meet me in my office at 4. Don't be late. Her heart raced. There was no invitation to discuss their ideas, it felt more like a summons. It wasn't just a meeting, it was a confrontation. Madeline had made her position clear. Emily took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. I need to wrap things up before that meeting, Emily said, her voice steadier than she felt. She started walking briskly toward her office, the anxiety swirling in her gut. Meanwhile, Jack's supportive gaze followed her, a silent encouragement that she badly needed. As she entered her small workspace, the clutter of papers and lingering coffee cups seemed almost a metaphor for the chaos in her mind. She plopped down at her desk, determined to organize her thoughts before that impending showdown. What if Madeline was unyielding? Would it turn into a fight, or could she pivot the conversation? The idea of going head-to-head made her stomach twist. But she reminded herself of the families depending on this proposal, the little ones who needed their parents at home but also in their best state of mind. Recalling Greg's suggestion, Emily grabbed a notepad. She began jotting down potential points for their argument, the buddy system, the shared experiences in parenting, how collaboration could transform the workplace. Words flowed as if a dam broke within her, filling page after page with notes, statistics, and heart-lifting phrases that reminded her why this mattered so deeply. Time slipped away, and soon it was almost 4 p.m. The weight of the upcoming meeting settled on her shoulders again. She pushed herself up from the desk, heart pounding, the feeling of dread overpowering her momentary surge of confidence. As she approached Madeline's office, Emily paused by the door. She could hear voices inside, other colleagues discussing strategies about the proposal. She felt a mix of fear and hope. What if they spoke out? Would they challenge Madeline together? With a mix of resolve and trepidation, Emily knocked lightly, the sound echoing in the quiet hallway. The murmur inside hushed, and moments later, Madeline gestured for her to enter. "Thank you for coming, Emily," Madeline said, the tone somewhat warmer than before but still guarded. Emily took a deep breath and stepped in, the air thick with anticipation. "Let us cut to the chase," Madeline said, leaning back in her chair. Her arms crossed defensively, and Emily sensed the challenge that lay ahead. "Why do you think your proposal is worth pursuing? There are plenty of issues we face that don't involve parental leave or flexible hours." Emily felt her heart pound as Madeline continued to speak, yet instead of feeling crushed by her skepticism, Emily steadied her breath. This was her moment. Because it's not just about policies. It's about people. It's about creating a culture where employees feel supported instead of isolated. And if we want our team to thrive, we need to prioritize work-life balance. Madeline raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. Emily could feel the room grow tense as her colleagues watched, awaiting the response to their leader's challenge. "And how do you propose we make that happen?" Madeline shot back, her eyes narrowing slightly. Before Emily could respond, Greg piped up from the back, his voice steady but urgent. "With the mentorship program. It's not just another change, it's a signal that we acknowledge the struggles employees face." Madeline flipped her gaze to Greg, and Emily could almost see the wheels turning in her mind. Would this moment be an opening or a dead end? They waited, heartbeats echoing in the silence. Emily clutched her notes and hoped that the support surrounding her could shift the tide. Yet, that looming thought echoed again. What if she failed? Then, just as Emily prepared to voice her next point, a small voice chimed in from the corner. It was one of the interns. "My mom had to juggle work and 2 kids by herself. She always said that just feeling understood made such a difference," the intern said, her eyes wide, vulnerability spilling out. It was a powerful reminder of why they were fighting, and Emily felt a surge of hope. The tide could be shifting, but only if they kept pushing. As Emily looked around the room, she felt the growing unity among her colleagues. Could they turn this meeting into a real conversation about change? Would Madeline see that their proposal was more than a request, it was a crucial step towards a future that everyone deserved? Just as the atmosphere in the room began to warm, Emily suddenly realized, what if they faced an obstacle that no one saw coming? The moment of truth loomed, and she had to be ready. "Are you all in?" she asked, her voice steady, as a shared determination sparked between them. The answer was about to reveal whether this proposal would flourish or falter, and everything hinged on the next moment. But would they be met with acceptance, or another barricade? Emily's heart thudded in her chest as she waited anxiously for Madeline's response. There it was, the pregnant pause in the air, and just like that, the room teetered on the edge of hope and uncertainty. Madeline opened her mouth, eyes narrowing slightly as the tension tightened around them. "It's not that simple, Emily. Change is hard in this environment. We have a system, a way of doing things that's worked for years." A wave of murmurs rippled through the room. Some colleagues nodded, others looked skeptical. Emily's breath caught. Would they retreat into their comfort zones? The last thing she wanted was for this moment to dissolve into the same old excuses. Remembering the intern's heartfelt plea, Emily took a deep breath. "But that's the thing, isn't it? We can't keep clinging to a system that doesn't support everyone. Isn't it time to change what hasn't been working for so many?" Greg stood up straighter, his voice cutting through the uncertainty. "We've seen the effects of burnout. Employees are leaving. Morale is low. What good are old ways if they're hurting people?" Emily caught sight of the intern again, her eyes glimmering with hope. If there was ever a moment to rally everyone, this was it. "What if we shift our focus?" Emily continued. "Instead of seeing parental leave and flexibility as obstacles, let us view them as investments. Investments in our people." Madeline seemed to soften, just a fraction. The warriors in the room sensed the shift. Investments can be risky, Emily. But the right risks can lead to transformation, Emily shot back, her pulse racing. She could feel the adrenaline coursing through her. Isn't that why we're all here? To innovate? To prove we care about our people? A flicker of acknowledgement passed between some colleagues. Emily's words hung in the air, resounding with urgency. This proposal was no longer just a policy, it was a beacon of possibility. Like a lighthouse guiding ships to shore, it held the promise of change. "Let us talk about solutions, then," Madeline said, her expression evolving. "How do we roll something like this out without losing productivity?" "Flexible hours could help," Greg suggested, glancing around to gauge the response. "Mentorships for new parents, shared responsibilities. It's about collaboration, a community effort." Madeline rubbed her forehead, and for the first time, her frown seemed to ease. Each suggestion became another piece of the puzzle fitting together. Hope flickered again, a candle in the dark. As they tossed ideas back and forth, the energy in the room shifted. Someone proposed initiating pilot programs. Another suggested hosting workshops to gather feedback from everyone in the organization, employees, parents, and stakeholders alike. At that moment, Emily felt a swell of pride in her team. They weren't just fighting for ideas, they were rising together, united with conviction. Madeline was listening, really listening, and that spark of hope became a flame. "Okay, let us refer back to the original proposal," Madeline finally said, leaning forward. "And I'll agree to consider it again, provided you all band together to flesh it out. If there's clear data, clear support, maybe we can shift some things." Emily nearly gasped. Had they just made progress? Had she gotten through to her? "I can work on gathering resources," Emily offered, her excitement bubbling over. "And, if everyone contributes something, we can come back with a solid plan." Madeline offered a contemplative nod. "I want results. This has to matter. And if it does," she paused, eyeing the group thoughtfully, "we'll be in a much stronger position to take the next steps." As the discussion continued, all of them felt lighter, energized, and more determined than ever. They were evolving before their very own eyes. But as they basked in the thrill of momentum, an uneasy thought stirred within Emily. Were they truly ready for the transformation they promised? What if those upfront commitments became more complicated down the line? And just like that, the collective excitement dimmed at the looming uncertainties. "Wait," Emily said suddenly, her stomach lurching. "What happens if we hit resistance again? If any bumps arise along the way, will it cost us our momentum?" The room fell quiet, and in that silence lay a brewing storm of questions that could shake them to their core. Were they really prepared to face what was waiting on the other side of their ambitious new plan, and would they all continue to stand together under pressure? Madeline's brows knitted together, her silence a weight that bore down on Emily. The air in the room thickened with tension as colleagues exchanged glances, some shifting uneasily in their seats, while others leaned forward, eager for clarity. Emily swallowed hard, anxiety tightening around her throat. It felt like a tightrope act, walking between optimism and doubt. "Let us be real," Madeline finally said, her tone shifting to that of a seasoned navigator. "Change doesn't just happen overnight. It requires us to confront uncomfortable truths about the way we operate." Greg nodded vigorously. "That's right. We need buy-in from the top down." His voice was steady, exuding a quiet confidence. "Without it, we risk having this conversation again and losing all the momentum we've built." The team weighed his words, heads bobbing in agreement. Emily felt a surge of determination. "But we shouldn't let fear of disruption hold us back. If we don't take the leap, how can we expect to transform our workplace into one that thrives?" Madeline's eyes softened, glistening with the flicker of understanding. "But what happens when we face pushback? What do we do when the system fights back? You know it will." Emily felt the pit in her stomach deepen. She took a deep breath, raking her mind for a solution. We gather stories. We need to go beyond the numbers. Real experiences matter. She turned to the quietest member of the group, Samantha, who was a mother to a toddler. Samantha, you've been balancing work and motherhood. What challenges have you faced? Samantha hesitated, a flicker of vulnerability crossing her face. It's been really hard to balance both, especially when my son is sick, or I have to pump milk at work. I just want to be present for him. The compassion in her voice permeated the room. Emily felt a pang of empathy rip through her. Exactly. These are the stories we need to share. Let people understand the costs of poor policies, in real life. We can be the voices for those who don't have the chance to speak up. Madeline leaned forward, intrigued by the shift in energy. And how will we present this to upper management? We need to ensure they clearly see the impact. Let us combine the data with these personal stories, Emily suggested brightly. Let us show that it's more than just statistics. It's lives, it's families, it's futures. As the room erupted in a flurry of rising voices, excitement replaced doubt. Ideas were pouring in, with suggestions of creating a video montage or powerful presentations. Emily felt like she was riding a wave, the momentum finally surging in her favor. Let us make it a campaign, Greg suggested, his eyes alight with ambition. Something that captures both the heart and the facts. But through the growing energy, a whisper of trepidation clung to Emily. She has seen enthusiasm fade before. What if it doesn't work? What if we face closed doors because of this? Will we be painting targets on ourselves? The danger of what they were embarking upon seeped back in, making her heart race. She looked at their hopeful faces, the determined glints in their eyes, but she couldn't shake the lurking doubt. The room went quiet again as each member wrestled with their own thoughts. A tiny voice rose from the back. It was the intern, her timid confidence reaching through. What if we start small? What if we pilot something in just one department first to test the waters? Good idea. Madeline replied, though her expression portrayed skepticism. But how will we convince everyone to accept it within the confines of tradition? There it was again, the all-too-familiar apprehension. Would they truly take the plunge into unknown waters? The moment hung in the air, pregnant with uncertainty. And just as Emily was about to speak, the office door swung open, and in walked the CEO, an unexpected expression on his face. "What is going on in here?" he asked, curiosity piqued. Emily's heart did a flip. The moment she dreaded had arrived. Could this man threaten all they had built, or could he possibly be the ally they needed in their fight for change? The room fell into a stunned silence, save for the sharp intake of breath from Greg. All eyes swung toward the CEO, a figure of authority who now stood like a statue, watching the group with a mixture of confusion and intrigue. Emily's heart raced as the heaviness of the stakes pressed down on her chest. We were just brainstorming some ideas for a new work-life balance initiative," she managed to say, her voice wavering slightly. She searched for an opening to introduce their cause without overwhelming the moment. The CEO raised an eyebrow. Initiative? Interesting. I've always believed in finding ways to support our people. He stepped closer, his presence commanding yet strangely open. Madeline took the opportunity. We were discussing potential changes to our policies, particularly regarding parental leave and flexible work hours. It's important for us to share real-life stories to highlight the necessity of these changes. Emily could feel the soft thump of her heartbeat, joining the rhythm of hope mingled with anxiety in the room. The tension that had enveloped them dissipated just enough for optimism to creep in. The CEO's expression shifted, a flicker of recognition lighting up his eyes. He crossed his arms thoughtfully. Work-life balance. Yes, it's often overlooked. I know it's a huge issue, especially for parents. The few people in the room exchanged looks of disbelief. Was he actually engaging with them? Emily held her breath as the silence stretched, every second feeling monumental. I'm a father too, the CEO continued, a distant warmth in his voice, and there've been nights when I left the office feeling like I didn't give my family what they deserved. A wave of relief washed over Emily. She sensed the shift, he wasn't just another suit sitting at the top. In that moment, he became relatable. Greg jumped in, feeling emboldened. We believe that sharing these personal experiences could change hearts and minds, especially among upper management. When they see the human side of our policies, it might inspire them to support change. The CEO nodded slowly, a contemplative look settling on his face. I like the idea of gathering stories. It's genuine. Data is important, he said, pausing to gauge their reactions, but the personal touch drives the point home. Madeline's eyes sparkled. If we start with a small pilot, something manageable, will have concrete results to present. We could show what happens when policies are adjusted for better work-life balance. What made you think of this? The CEO asked, now genuinely intrigued. His questions felt more like a conversation than an interrogation. Emily took a breath, the weight of the moment swirling in her chest. She thought of Samantha, of her struggles as a mother, of all the stories waiting to be told. We've seen firsthand the difficulties some of our coworkers face. Hear from parents like Samantha who navigate work and care, and from employees who are managing health, education, and far more. We want to build a workplace that doesn't just hear but listens. A workplace that changes with its people. The atmosphere shifted, energy hummed in the air as realization began to spread through the room. All right then, let us move forward on this. The CEO said, now standing taller, his confidence returning. I want to hear those stories. Don't hold back. I'll support you. A cheer erupted, but Emily's heart still thrummed with caution, keeping her feet grounded while her mind spiraled through the possibilities. Could they truly change the narrative? As the excitement rolled out like a wave, she noticed something. The way the CEO smiled, the hope in his eyes, it felt genuine. But would this be enough? Could they navigate through the inevitable pushback that still loomed ahead? Before she could voice her second question, the door swung open once again, capturing everyone's attention. This time, it was an HR representative. There's someone here to see you, she said breathlessly, a reporter. Emily's breath caught in her throat. A reporter? Just how much attention were they about to bring upon themselves? What were the risks of their journey now escalating beyond just the office walls? The feeling of possibility was heavy, but amid it all, doubt whispered in her mind. The chatter in the room turned into a low hum. Emily's eyes darted to the others, their expressions a blend of excitement and apprehension. A reporter? What did she want? The abrupt intrusion felt like a jolt that pushed her forward, ready to dive deeper into their new initiative, but also left her reeling in uncertainty. The HR representative stepped aside, and in walked a woman holding a notepad, her eyes sharp and focused. The air seemed to shift with her presence, drawing every eye toward her. Emily felt the tension tightening in her chest again. She was acutely aware of the potential consequences of their aims becoming public. Hi everyone, I'm Sarah, the reporter introduced herself. I heard about your initiative and wanted to get the inside scoop. Can I ask a few questions? An enthusiastic murmur rippled through the group. The CEO seemed equally intrigued. Emily swallowed hard. Could they control the narrative? Come in, of course, the CEO said, gesturing for her to take a seat. We're just discussing ideas about work-life balance and the stories behind them. Sarah leaned in, her pen poised to capture every word. What inspired this initiative? She began, her voice resonating with curiosity. Greg piped up, ready to seize the moment. We wanted to share personal experiences, stories from employees who faced everyday challenges balancing work with family responsibilities. The hope is that these stories can illustrate the need for policy changes. Emily watched as Sarah scribbled furiously, her expressions shifting from vague interest to engaged understanding. The room felt charged. This might just be the moment that catapults their message into the spotlight. Can you share a particular story that stands out? Sarah asked, lifting her gaze from the notepad. Emily felt a weight in her chest. She thought about Samantha, how she managed to juggle late-night deadlines with caring for her little one. Samantha, Emily started, is a single mom who often finds herself working through lunch in order to pick her daughter up from daycare. She's exhausted. She told me once that she missed so many milestones because she had to rush home to meet her job's demands. If we can show how policy changes can genuinely help moms like her, we can transform lives. The room hung on her words. The CEO nodded, his expression turning serious. Those are the types of real-life stories that can spark change. We need to hear more of them. Sarah leaned forward, intrigue evident in her eyes. Do you think sharing these stories publicly could inspire other companies to follow suit? The question lingered in the air like a breath held in suspense. Emily could feel hope pulsing through her, yet concern nagged at the back of her mind. What if their stories caused pushback? What if they faced opponents resistant to change? Yes, Emily replied, her voice stronger than she felt. If we're brave enough to tell them. If we can be real about our struggles, it might inspire others to take that leap. Just then, a notification buzzed on Sarah's phone. She glanced at it, and her eyebrows shot up. I just got an alert. There's outrage on social media about work-life balance policies. People are sharing their stories and it's going viral. A wave of panic rushed through Emily as she exchanged glances with her colleagues. Was the wave of support turning into a tide they couldn't control? Maybe this is our moment? Madeline suggested tentatively, looking at Emily, both of them realizing they were standing on the brink of something much bigger. Or it could be our downfall, Emily murmured under her breath, anxiety knotting in her stomach. The reporter sensed the tension. Whatever happens next, this is important. You could be at the forefront of a movement, the world is listening. Silence fell as they absorbed the weight of her words, the reality beginning to settle in. Emily's heart raced. They had the chance to make waves, but at what cost? As she looked around the room, she felt a mix of exhilaration and fear. They were all in this together, yet the journey ahead still felt fraught with uncertainty. Before anyone could respond, the door opened yet again, and another figure entered. This time, it was Samantha, looking flushed and hurried. I just got the news. They want my story. Emily's mind raced. This was the moment they'd been waiting for, yet fear loomed large. Would Samantha be ready for what lay ahead? Would they truly be able to change the conversation? As Samantha stepped forward, Emily felt the gravity of their cause and the weight of its potential consequences hanging in the air like an unfinished promise. Would they be able to navigate the storm that was brewing? The room was a collage of emotions: anticipation, fear, hope, and uncertainty swirled together like an intricate tapestry. Emily watched as Samantha stood tall, her presence radiating strength. I want to share my story, Samantha said, her voice steady despite the tremor of vulnerability beneath. But I'm terrified. What if it doesn't lead to change? What if we become targets for being too vocal? Emily stepped forward, feeling the weight of the moment. Your voice matters more than you know, Samantha. Sharing your experience could open floodgates for others to do the same. We're fighting for every family out there. Slowly, a sense of courage wrapped around them, filling the air with a collective resolve. The CEO, now fully engaged, turned his gaze to Samantha. You have the power to inspire so many, he said gently. Change doesn't happen without voices like yours leading the charge. Tell us what it's really like juggling both worlds, what you need as a parent. As she took a breath, thoughts of her little one filled Samantha's mind. Every day feels like a struggle. I love my job, but I often miss precious moments with my child. I want to excel at work without sacrificing being there for the little things that matter. Her voice held a vulnerability that resonated, shimmering in the silence. Greg leaned in, his expression earnest. That's it, other employees need to hear that. It's not just about policies, it's about real lives. The company needs to understand. Sarah, the reporter, scribbled quickly, eyes wide with inspiration. Stories like yours could alter the narrative. They could show the human side of this corporate world many tend to overlook. The moment felt like it turned on a pivot, the future right there in the palm of their hands. Emily felt her heart swelling with hope, brimming with adrenaline. They weren't just employees in a conference room anymore, they were pioneers of transformation. Samantha took a deep breath. Okay, I'm ready. Let us do this, she said. Fires sparked in her eyes, every person in the room nodded, a unified front emerging. Emily felt an electric energy, they were resolute, thrumming with newfound purpose. We need to build awareness, she suggested. As a team, let us start a campaign that not just advocates for policy changes, but amplifies our voices. Share our journeys. The response was immediate. Ideas flowed like a river, energized voices sparking creativity. They brainstormed ways to gather stories, showcasing personal experiences of working parents within the company. Each shared tale was a step toward reshaping the culture, creating a more supportive environment. The CEO interrupted, a smile breaking across his serious demeanor. Let us take this public. We'll launch a company-wide initiative to listen, learn, and grow. We have a chance to set a precedent for others. Madeline, surprisingly, joined in, her approval radiating through the room. And it's vital that we document the process, engage our employees every step of the way. They are the backbone of this company. Encouraged, Emily seized the moment. Together, we can create a guide based on our findings, showing not only the benefits of work-life balance but the practical ways we can implement it. The atmosphere buzzed, and it felt like the walls of corporate rigidity started to crack further, revealing humanity beneath. Then, just as the mood began to lift, the stab of doubt returned. Emily couldn't ignore the potential backlash looming like a storm cloud. Would they encounter resistance despite their unified front? Would it all unravel when faced with the heavy hand of tradition? Let us prepare for that, she ventured, her voice grounded. The stories we share will matter, but we must strategize how to address pushback. We shouldn't shy away from discussing what the old ways have done to our morale. Jack, once the ruthless authority, chimed in. It's critical to blend our voices with actionable insights. We need to emphasize our well-being and the impact it directly has on productivity. Let us highlight how workplace satisfaction translates into organizational success. Samantha nodded, her fear now blended with newfound determination. We can't afford to back down. We have to initiate the conversations that make leaders uncomfortable. If we don't do it, who will? Emily felt her heart surge with pride watching Samantha begin to shine, her courage igniting the room. They were more than just names on a corporate ledger, they were a community, determined to take a stand. Suddenly, Sarah's voice cut through the noise. When do you want to roll this out? Timing could be pivotal. Now, Emily replied, quieting the room. We must strike while the iron is hot. The world is ready for this change. The social media wave is building. It's time to harness that energy, to embrace the discomfort of change. It's now or never. As the meeting drew to a close, it was clear the journey ahead would demand resilience, risk, and unwavering courage. Yet, the fire of change glowed within them. They were armed with stories, creativity, and a collective wisdom poised to call for a new tomorrow. The trio of the CEO, Madeline, and the entire team rallied together, bound by empathy, ready to push boundaries. They now stood on the precipice of something extraordinary. As the close of the meeting loomed, a moment of silence fell. Emily inhaled deeply, the air vibrant with possibility. We are more than just our jobs, we are families, communities, and friends. Together, we can redefine the future of work." The words resonated as if the universe conspired with them, lighting the spark of transformation. It was a bold step toward a better future, weaving together the fragile strands of determination and hope, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. As they left the room, Emily felt the sense of a community burgeoning, united not just as co-workers, but modern pioneers marching toward a future where work and family balance could truly coexist. This was just the beginning now, my friends. This is your moment to join this journey. You need to hit that subscribe button immediately to stay updated on the next transformational stories. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and share this groundbreaking message with the world. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this empowering conclusion. Let your voice be heard, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this story of hope, courage, and change. Together, we can inspire a movement.